Whether they are real or legends, stories about sea monsters have always captured our imagination. Sea monsters are beings from folklore believed to dwell in the sea and often imagined to be of immense size. Marine monsters can take many forms, including sea dragons, sea serpents, or multi-armed beasts. In this video we count down 5 sea monsters that may exist. The Wollowa Lake Monster, also known as Wally, is a lake monster alleged to inhabit Wollowa Lake, Oregon. It's described as being roughly between 8 and 20 feet long and hump-shaped. A local legend among the Nez Perce tribe states that when the Nez Perce and Blackfeet were at war, the daughter of the Nez Perce chief fell in love with the son of the Blackfoot chief. One night the couple took a canoe from the Nez Perce camp and rowed out onto the lake. Eventually the rival tribes realised what was happening and set out after them. The monster then came up from the lake and attacked them, killing them all. To this day the Nez Perce do not venture out on the lake. An article was written in the local Wollowa Chieftain newspaper on November 5, 1885, detailing a local resident's encounter with the monster. A prospector who refuses to give his name to the public was coming down from the south end on the lake last Friday evening in a ski shortly after dusk, when about midway to the lake he saw an animal about 50 yards to the right of the boat. It reared its head and neck up out of the water about 10 to 12 feet, but on setting him it immediately dived. He ceased rowing and gazed around in astonishment, for the strange apparition which he had just seen. When it raised about the same distance to the left, it gave a low bellow something like that of a cow. It also brought its body to the surface, which the witness states was about 100 feet in length. The monster glided along in sight for several hundred yards. It was too dark to see the animal distinctly, but it seemed to have a large flat head something like that of a hippopotamus, and its neck, which was about 10 feet in length, was as large around as a man's body. Now this story may have been coined in the imagination of the narrator, but he was very specific in his recital. However, it's a known fact that there is a tradition among the Indians that the lake has a big sea cow in it, which on one occasion many years ago came up one evening and swallowed a young warrior and his bride as they were gliding over the surface of the lake in a canoe. And to this day an Indian of the tribes who formerly visited its shores cannot be induced to go upon its waters. The lake has been sounded to the depth of 270 feet, and it's a bare probability that some monster does inhabit its unexplored depths. Since then there have been very few sightings of the creature. In 1932 2 residents of the area saw the monster, and described it as longer than their 11-foot boat. Irene Wiggins, who lived along the lake, claimed to have spotted the creature many times between 1945 and 1983. She described the monster's head as a big black thing like a hogshead, and estimated it weighed hundreds of pounds. In 1950, 3 people saw 2 monsters feeding on fish, the first being 16 feet long and the second being 8 feet long. In 1978, a couple claimed to see the creature twice. First they saw 3 humps break the surface of the lake. Second, they watched an approximately 20-foot long snake-like creature circle a certain portion of the lake for several minutes. In 1981, 2 men spotted the monster. Varberg Fortress was built in 1287 to 1300 by Count Nielsen as protection against a Danish king. The fortress has a moat said to be inhabited by a small lake monster. In August 2006, 2 witnesses claimed to have seen a creature emerge from the dark water and devour a duck. The creature is described as brown, furless and with a 40 cm long tail. Other witnesses also reported seeing something. The sightings made headlines in local newspapers and media. The moat is apparently connected with the sea. The reports were then taken up by the countrywide media, and lots of people turned up to investigate what was in the moat. The water is murky, so visibility is limited. One investigator tried to listen with microphones and divers tried to look for the creature. Nothing conclusive was found, but skeptics think it could have been a seal, a big pike or a catfish that somehow got into the moat. It may have been placed there or got in itself through the access to the sea. While some believe this to be a seal or a pike, others believe it's a genuine sea monster. The Seal Rock Sea Monster is a sea monster allegedly inhabiting Seal Rock, Oregon. In June 1935, a group of residents of Seal Rock claimed to see 2 giant sea serpents. The group heard some unusual roaring from local sea lions and went out to investigate. seeing a huge animal of enormous proportions. One was dark brown from 40 to 60 feet long according to the article. It had a head 3 feet wide and 5 feet long. This particular creature played in the surf for about half an hour and then headed south. Its head was as long as a man and at least 3 feet wide. Another serpent was seen a few minutes later, and it would surface here and there, but it didn't make much commotion at all. Eventually it also disappeared. It's been speculated the monster was a hoax designed to boost tourism in the area. On August 10, 1817, a strange creature was sighted in the harbour of Gloucester, Massachusetts. Reports of it began to spread throughout New England. General David Humphreys, a former member of George Washington's staff, travelled down to Gloucester to interview witnesses. According to the testimony he gathered, the creature's head, which it held above the water, was much like the head of a turtle and larger than any head of any dog. From its head there rose a prong or spear about 12 inches in height and 6 inches in circumference at the bottom, and running to a small point. In a compilation of sightings printed in the Boston Weekly Messenger, it was further reported that the creature was 60 to 70 feet in length, and that it was about as wide as a barrel. All attempts to kill it or capture it, including shooting a musket at it from close range, failed. On August 18, 1817, the Linnean Society of New England appointed a special committee to collect evidence with regard to the existence and appearance of any such animal. This committee soon thereafter published a pamphlet in which they announced that the sightings of the creature represented the discovery of an entirely new genus. However, the Society's pamphlet met with ridicule, and inspired the production of numerous fake accounts of the creature. Others, however, took the reports of the creature seriously. Jacob Bigelow composed an essay about the creature for Benjamin Silman's American Journal of Science and Arts. Interest in sea serpents reached an even greater pitch in America when there were mass sightings of a serpent off the coast of Nahant in 1819. The Lliamna Lake Monster is an aquatic cryptid reported to dwell in the small Alaskan fishing village of Lliamna. The native tales describe a large beast that roams the waters. The monster has many reported sightings along with a few reported caused deaths. Over the years it's gained enough attention to lure the Animal Planet show River Monsters in an attempt to find out what might be hiding beneath the lake's waters. The monster is a reported 10 to 30 feet in length, with a square-like head that is used to place blunt force onto things such as small boats. Although there is no physical evidence to conclude the monster's existence, many reports beg to differ. The lake is a large natural lake, but described by Ivan T. Anderson as not a lake at all but really an inland sea, located in the southwestern portion of the US state of Alaska. At over 1,000 square miles, it's the largest lake in Alaska, and one of the largest lakes in the country. The lake is 77 miles at its longest, and has a maximum width of approximately 22 miles. Its deepest point is 988 feet, with an average depth of 144 feet. The lake is located about 50 feet above sea level. Like most of Alaska, due to its remote location, access to the lake is restricted almost exclusively to the use of airplanes. Travel by float planes is the most common, as they can land directly onto the lake. No roads currently connect communities on the lake to the surrounding areas. The region surrounding the lake is very sparsely populated, with fishing and hunting being the main economy of the area. The earliest reports of a monster living in the lake came from the native people, who tell stories of a creature referred to as the Gonakadit. It was described as a large water-dwelling animal with a head and tail similar to that of a wolf, and a body like an orca. The creature was depicted as a fish god, and was recorded in pictographs along the Alaskan and British Columbian coasts. Other early reports of the monster came from the native Aleut people, who tell stories of the creature they call the Jigignac. The fish-like monsters were reported to travel in groups and attack canoes and kill warriors. The creatures were feared and not hunted by the Aleut. This sparked interest in others as pilots and fishermen began to wonder what the creatures were. Many more sightings were reported as people began to fly low over the lake for the purpose of seeing these monster fish. Consistent reports of large dull aluminium-coloured fish were coming in by the late 50s. Soon enough attention was brought to the subject that in 1979 the Anchorage Daily News, the state's primary newspaper, offered a sum of $100,000 to anyone who could provide conclusive evidence proving the fish existed. The evidence is yet to be provided as sightings have slowed in recent years. So that was 5 sea monster sightings. Thanks for watching and don't forget to subscribe for more countdown videos.